With the quotes, we create kind humans who speak kindness, show kindness. Be a kind human. Be a kind human. Hey. Welcome to another episode of What the Quote. I am your host, or hostess, as I like to say, Tajuana, and I'm so excited about the quote for today because it deals with fear. So I'm going to give you the quote for the day, tell you who said it, and then we're going to dance for 30 seconds. Then we'll be back to discuss the quote. The quote today comes to us from Jake Canfield, and the quote is, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." Everything you want is on the other side of fear. So let's take a few minutes to dance. Oh my goodness. Don't you just love a good dance? So hopefully you got your dance on a little bit and, you relieve some stress. It helps you to be kinder, all those good things that dancing does. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quote from Mr. Canfield that states, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." I felt it was important to kind of bring up a quote that deals with fear because I know a lot of us are overcoming it as we speak. And there are times where I believe that it doesn't actually show up as fear. Sometimes it shows up with excuses. Sometimes it shows up looking like you're being realistic. Sometimes I believe it shows up in judgment of other people who are doing the thing that you are fearful of doing. And so I really wanted to just bring up fear because I think it looks differently with other people and depending on what it is you're dealing with. So for me, one of the things that continues to move me past fear, number one, is having coaches. That's one of the reasons why you're listening to this podcast is because I had a coach who basically said, stop doing all that preparing and get on the microphone. And so that's what I did. And so there's that. And what I have found in my own life is when I have seen other people doing podcasts, I've been like, man, okay, I'm gonna get back. I'm start doing mine. So really, I would look at them, and I don't want to say I was jealous, but I was envious of like, wow, they are really doing it. Like they are really doing the thing that I know that I desire to do. And also what in speaking about how it shows up for me sometimes. Sometimes it shows up with me preparing and over preparing. And sometimes that looks like me being a perfectionist because instead of me doing it, I am trying to get it perfect, do it right. And so that's how it shows up for me at times. Another thing that pushes me past fear is there's something within me that does not desire to deal with regret. And what I mean by that is, my stepdad, Butch, who really was just I wish everybody could have a Butch. He was the most perfect mate for my mom. He accepted my sister and I just with open arms. I mean, he was just a great, great human. And he lived his life doing exactly what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it, and at the level that he wanted to do it at. No, I mean, from the things that he purchased, how much he gave to other people. I'll tell you this quick story. So he passed um, about 8, 9 years ago. Um, and so up until that time, I felt like, oh my gosh, he made me feel so special. And, we're at the funeral and, I'm walking around chit chatting with people as I go. And I'm not kidding. I must have talked to what felt like 50 people. And they each had a story about how Butch made them feel, or that he had saved their life because he was a police officer, or that he came over and fixed this or done that, or made this person laugh, or talked to this person's son, I mean, just a whole. And I was like, I thought I was the only one, you know, that um, he made me feel that way. But I was like, wow, what a way to live your life that everybody felt that they were special, just like I felt, I thought I was the only one. But I mean, his brothers, his sisters, I mean, you name it. A lot of people felt that way. And what that helped me to realize is that I did not want to live my life regretting something that I had not done or at least tried to do. That is one of the reasons why Mimosa and a Masterpiece um, came to be. And it's so funny because there are people who come into the studio and they're like, how long have you been painting? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't, it's like, I don't really do that. I mean, now I can paint a masterpiece, but that is not my goal. I would much prefer to be the hostess and make the mimosas because I opened Mimosa and a Masterpiece having painted once, which was the one time that my girlfriend Amia took me to a place like Mimosa and a Masterpiece called Sips and Strokes. I hadn't painted since the third grade, which is what everybody says when they come into Mimosa and a Masterpiece, that they haven't painted since the third grade. But I didn't know what I couldn't do. And so I just thought I could do it all. And I hired people and I did this and did that. And, you know, almost 9 years later, here I am. And so um, I just never wanted to live a life of regret. And that is one reason why I believe I have continued to push myself the way that I have, because I want to try new experiences and live a life that honors who I am and not that of fear. And I know a lot of us struggle with fear in certain aspects of our life. And I really just want to um, invite you to take a look at that and where it comes from. Because what what I don't want for you is to live a life regretting something that you have not done. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Canfield. So you remember Chicken Soup for the Soul? He was one of the ones who actually brought that into being. You know, they have 473 million Chicken Soups for the Soul books. I mean, it was the rage when it first came out. He was also on a very popular movie, The Secret. I'm sure a lot of you have heard from that. He was the guy who, um, one of the guys who was on The Secret. So if you haven't watched The Secret, it's great. I would, invite you to, The Secret is great, but you got to get the work in there. You got to do some work in order to make those things happen that you want to happen in your life. But I think that as it relates to fear, it can be very crippling, and it can also show up in many ways. There are people who come into the studio and they're like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I can't spend, if I had a penny for every time somebody said I can't paint stick figures, I'd be a millionaire by now. But they're very fearful. They don't want to make a mistake. And really, that is where the magic is. It's just being authentic, just being open. And one of the things that I say in the studio is, how many of you are painting for the first time? And people raise their hand and like, and I'm like, hey, relax. Like, we got you. I just want you to relax so that when you look at your masterpiece at the end, you won't have thoughts of stress because literally it's following directions. And I think that that's also a bit how life is. There's a manual, there's a Bible, there's a treat people the way you want to be treated. There is, hey, say please and thank you. If you don't know how to do something, ask. I mean, there's a certain process that is required, but we can all do it. And if you're fearful of something, what I have found is that it's best that I lean into the fear. So if I am fearful and using my voice or this whole podcast, um, the way that it came to be, I was very fearful because I was very judgmental of my voice and how it sounds and how many times I say so, because I say so, you know, 12 times in every podcast. I don't know. Um, but that's how I was. But it took somebody saying, when are you going to get started? For me to be like, ooh, okay, let me go ahead and get started. Sometimes it's not that simple, but that is also why I think it's important to have people in your life and in your circle who push you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and that will hold your hand as you walk through whatever fears that you might be experiencing, because that's how you grow, is to move past and move through the fears that you may be experiencing in your life. So I'm gonna put on my coaching hat. I'm gonna put on my coaching hat. If I had a hat, I would put it on. It says, coaching corner. To give you a couple takeaways as it relates to fear. And so, what I would love for you to do is to take a few minutes to think about some things that you are fearful of. And, okay, so I would say maybe 3 to 5 things that you're fearful of. And then for each of those things, I want you to close your eyes and think, feel, and imagine what it would be like if you succeeded in the very thing that you are fearful of. So, if that is being in love, how is it going to feel when you are in love and you have the partner who you've always dreamed of and who God created? If you are fearful of going for the promotion. How is that going to feel? Oh my gosh, my first check. This is what it is. Isn't that awesome? I have a desk. I have my own, I have a name tint on the front. Like all of the, how is that going to feel when you actually get the thing that you are fearful of? Or running the mini marathon or starting your own business? How is it going to feel when you do that at the level of success that you desire? So that's your homework for today. Think about some things that you're fearful of, and then think, feel, and imagine how that's going to be when you succeed at it. Okay, that's all we got. It's another episode in the books. Here we go.
And with the quotes, we create kind humans who speak kindness, show kindness. Be a kind human. Be a kind human.